Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. This is a show where we talk about all things marriage. We talk about relationships. We talk about marriage matters because marriage matters. So hopefully you got that. So I'm here with my beautiful, lovely wife.
Thank you.
Tell the people who you are.
My name's Tanya Coleman.
Yeah, okay, that's Tanya Coleman.
I was waiting for you to add more to that.
Oh, because you see, I got a small, because I always say my beautiful, sexy, adorable, loving wife. I didn't do that this time, so. But we are joined by some very, 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 very special people. The Powells, Tyrone and Kim Powell, who we've known for many years.
Yes.
Many years. Over 20 years, something like that. Anyway, so this is our brother and sister.
Yep.
And we're just so grateful. Let's clap it up for them. Woo! So we just let you guys introduce yourselves. So just
tell everyone who you are.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Powell.
Kim Powell.
I'm supposed to say something else.
It's all good.
I'm T-Powell, man. I'm T-Powell.
Yeah. So actually, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you got your I Persevere shirt on.
Yeah.
But I started to wear mine. I was going to wear the one that you get. I still have it. I still be rocking it. Yeah, I still rock it. Yeah. So anyway, but so we just asked Tyrone and Kim to come on and just kind of share some of their nuggets of wisdom that they've learned. They just told us they'd be celebrating 20 years, right?
20 years. In
July.
Yes.
So in those 20 years, I know that they've got a lot of valuable information that they can share with us. So we always like to just start out with just asking our guests just to tell us about, your story. How did Tyrone and Kim Powell come to be?
Well, I will go.
Okay.
I was watching Becoming with Barack and Michelle Obama, mainly Michelle, but she was telling it from her perspective. And
Yeah.
I have a different perspective than what she had. So this is my perspective. So me and Kim met in high school. We were teenagers. And we talked on and off in high school as friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then she left to go to college, and I went to college. And after being at college and realizing I didn't have the money to be in college, I came back from college and I called her and we reconnected. And when we reconnected, it was more of a friendship, but then it evolved into a relationship. And we had already been in a relationship in high school, but being that I guess she was white and I was black, we kind of really didn't, and I guess in our young mind, we didn't see us marrying each other or being married to each other because we, different. So anyway, long story short, once we started dating and talking after college, after I stopped going to college, that's when she became pregnant with Tyree. And when she became pregnant with Tyree, I think you were 19? I was maybe 20 when she got pregnant or something like that. But anyway, I knew I was ready to be a father. Me and her, when we was in high school, we always talked about if we wanted kids, where we wanted to live, what kind of careers we wanted. So we talked about that as friends. So I knew she wanted to be a mom. She knew I wanted to be a dad. Growing up without a dad, my dad died when I was 10, so I lost him early. I was looking forward to that moment to be a dad, to be a present dad. And I was super excited about her being pregnant with my firstborn, and we were eager to get it right.
Yeah.
So that's that first level of how we originated as a couple, from high school, dating, on and off, to going to college, to getting pregnant, and then realizing it just got real.
Yeah.
And we knew we had a little one to be responsible for, and we wanted to make sure that we put him in position for success. And so we wanted to put him from the very beginning, give him the tools and resources to be successful. And so we knew we had to get it right. So that's when we began our journey to seek help and guidance so we can try to get it right as parents.
So this is important to add a little backstory right in between those times from when we did reconnect. Tyrone had went through a hard time with some things happening in his family, and then not being able to go to school. He was kind of broken at the time, and that's how we really rekindled. It was like a healing almost that we rekindled that way. And then just in the short amount of time from when we decided to be together, he was sick. He had dealt with ulcers all his teenage years, or his, I guess from 17, he was 18, 19 at the time. And so he ended up in the hospital really, really sick. And while he was in the hospital, I found out, right before he went, I found out I was pregnant with Tyree. And when he did come out, we knew, I think he had an encounter himself, spiritual encounter, to know that, okay, if I'm going to live, I'm going to have to live right, and we're going to do this the right way. So there was more going on, I think, in the spirit that we weren't aware of then that we were as we began pursuing the things of the spirit later on. And so I think that was key, because as soon as he did get out, and we, like you were saying, we were desperate to give our child a different scenario than maybe Tyrone experienced or I experienced, or what we thought we might want to bring him into. So we began pursuing the word in whatever way we knew how. I know we started with listening to Kirk Franklin, because that's all we knew to do.
It's a start, man.
We did.
Man, we didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about the things of the spirit.
I grew up in church, so I've always had a sensitivity to the things of the spirit. Growing up, understanding the Holy Spirit and receiving the Holy Spirit and the gift of speaking in tongues early as a teenager. I'm growing up Pentecostal, so I always felt in touch and moved by the Spirit, but like not to develop a relationship. I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ at the time. You know, I was in sin. Yeah. You know, but I knew some things. I knew how to at least pray, or we'd at least try to read. Sometimes we would end up fighting. Tyrone ran too slow. He ran too slow, and it got on my nerves. So we ended up fussing over reading the Bible. You know, that wasn't good. But we stayed with it. And then, you know, we know it was nothing but God, because through Tyrone's little brother, we connected with Pastor Norman. Yeah. And that's where our journey began. I was probably, I want to say 5, maybe 6 months pregnant with Tyree when Tyrone visited New Life.
But can I back up for a second? Because I'll never forget, I'm sure I'm fresh off the street. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to, you know, do the right thing with, you know, being a dad. And she was my girlfriend at the time. And I'm out in Louisiana, and I'm working at the plant, and I'm trying to get saved. And I was going to a church. I'm not going to say the church name. And so we were going to a church. We were just trying to visit church. We ended up going to this church. It was a Black church. And we were learning. We were new Christians. I'm fresh off the street. I don't know much. So they telling you to give, offering, pay tithe, all of that stuff. We doing everything. So I'm at work at the plant one day, and one of my co-workers who was a Christian, he say, "So you shacking up and you say you love God?" Well, I don't know nothing about shacking up, fornicating. I'm fresh off the street. Right. So I wanted to get right. So immediately I said, you know what, I'm eager to get right. I'm going to get right. So we go to reach out to the pastor and his staff about marriage counseling and, you know, doing the right steps to get married, you know, in that preparation for marriage. And they refused to give us counseling. Wow. They flat out refused to give us counseling. They refused to talk to us. They refused to give us marriage counseling.
What was their reason?
There was never a reason given.
It was just like a no follow-up after the fact, basically, just like.
And you know, we knew we were in trouble. Mm-hmm. We kind of, with the whole she being white, I'm being Black. We got pushed back from there early on, 1997, 1998. 1999, so we knew that there would be pushback. But when it actually said, "Hey, I'm in Christ and I want to get it right," to get pushed back in Christ, we knew it had got real. Yeah. And we knew that we were going to have to navigate through some waters to figure out how to get it right in Christ. Because that first experience, when they refused to give us marriage counseling, when we were asking for it,
Right.
you know, we're going to church, paying tithes, giving offering, new converts, and we were shunned. We knew we had trouble. We knew we had problems. And so that goes back to what Kim was saying about we getting navigated to Pastor Norman.
And to be honest, the first time Tyrone went to New Life, I didn't even go.
Okay.
Because Chris invited him to go because the kids were going from the village, and I was done. I was kind of worn out because we had been to a few things, and I'm like, I'm gonna sit this one out. And when he came back home, he was so excited, and I think they even went to lunch afterwards. And so I went back the next Sunday, and the rest was history there. But and then of course, you know, under Pastor Norman, Dr. Debbie, and then you guys were a big part of our growth and development as a young married couple. That's where we started our walk. I think that's where our marriage really started, because before then we were just trying to figure this thing out. It was, you know, our relationship was nothing before then.
It's amazing to me to, you know, because I don't know if I had heard that story before about that first church experience, but it's amazing to me how people didn't embrace you guys from the beginning, just because, and I guess, you know, I may be a little biased because I know you, you know, and I love you, and I think I loved you guys from the moment that, you know, we met. It's amazing to me how people can shun your hearts, you know, because although you were, as you said, living in sin, you guys were not married, you know, you're expecting a baby, all of those things, you were seeking God, and you were seeking guidance and leadership and help. So it's amazing to me that people could shun that, you know, and I think that's a little bit, and I don't want to get ahead, but that's a little bit of, not a little bit of the challenge that we have in society today, with people not loving, you know. That's, I think, the one of the number one missing components and ingredients is love. So
it's amazing to me that even now today, and that's one of the reasons why I believe we started doing this, because so many couples, there is, I mean, we have the word of God. I know that is the ultimate authority, but when it comes to marriage, it's amazing to me that the church is to me, we don't do enough. Let me just say it that way. You know, there's a lot. I always say, you know, in order to get to drive a car, you got to go take a test. You got to go to school, take a test. You know, all these things, all these precursors to drive, to become all these different things. But to get married, all you need to do is go to the courthouse and get a certificate. Pay like $40, you know, and get a certificate, and you are making a decision that's going to affect the rest of your life. It's going to affect your kids' life. All these things that it's going to affect, and there's a lot. You'd be surprised, even still to this day, there are a lot of churches that don't require, or not say require, but don't offer, you know, premarital counseling. You know, and that's what I think our purpose in this is, to be able to give couples, whether that's young couples or wherever you are, information that's going to allow them to navigate the highs as well as the lows. You know, because it's one thing, and you know, we tell couples this all the time. You are going to have disagreements. It's gonna happen. You know, most couples are like, I don't see why we would disagree. Hey, trust me, stay married long enough.
Give it a minute.
It's gonna happen. But I'm like,
have kids.
Say it again.
We'll have kids.
And have kids.
Yeah.
Once you have kids, you're not gonna see eye to eye on everything.
Yeah.
You know.
So I always say, the not seeing eye to eye is not the problem. It's not having the tools to navigate through that. That's where the issue comes in. So that's what one of the things that we like to teach is, and you know, when it comes to marriage, I think another thing is, you know, people look at us and they may attach counseling, marriage counseling to that. And that within itself is a whole other stigma that, it's like, I don't want to go to talk to nobody because then they're going to know something wrong. I'm like, well, something is wrong, or even more than that, Tanya and I always say, we do the work, even though we are counseling people. The only reason why I believe we can counsel is because we are being counseled.
Right.
Yeah.
We do things. We talk to other couples. We have mentors and marriage coaches in our lives. We go to events that are designed to enhance our marriage. We listen to, we read books, we do all these things, and it's all about making sure that this stays intact. In other words, we're trying to get ahead. It's like I always say, it's the maintenance part. Just like I take my car to get the oil change. Every 3,000 miles, we probably need to do a little oil change. You know what I'm saying?
And so going back to how we ended up really getting married, this is a story you need for this clip. So I'm at the plant, and the guy who called me out and said, "Hey man, you live in the scene, you need to get married." His name was Brother Coy Thomas. Never forget his name. His wife's name is Candy Thomas. Never forget these people. They married us. I told him what happened with the church. Now, if y'all want to edit this out and y'all want to know the name of the church, I can tell y'all. Because this ain't live, right?
Huh?
We'll tell y'all later.
You have to say it.
Okay. So anyway, I told Brother Coy what happened. They didn't want to marry us, et cetera, et cetera. He said, well, I'll marry you, but before I marry you, I got to do marriage counseling with you. And you and your wife have to come to marriage counseling with me and my wife, Candy. I said, man, we that's what we wanted. That's what we were asking for. Like, we didn't want to just get married. We wanted somebody to show us from the Bible what some kind of foundational scriptures are on marriage and how to build and go from there. Just point us in the right direction. So he did. Yeah. And we ended up going, we did ASAP. It was in the summertime. We did it ASAP. We just set it was no date. It was like a Saturday. And we were off work Friday, which was the 2nd of July in 2000. And so that next day was the 3rd. July 3rd of 2000. And so we went over to his house, and after we went through all of the counseling sessions and everything, when we finally graduated his class, like Glenn said, went through the precursors, then he said, okay, you guys are ready. Okay, this is just a start, but y'all's counseling needs to continue to go on forever. Like this is just to get you started, but it doesn't stop here. You guys gonna have to do the work even as you grow into your marriage. So we got that information up front, that we knew we were gonna have to grow with each other and as individuals. And so when he married us at his house, we show up. She has no family members with her. I have no family members with me. We naive to marriage. We don't know.
You don't need
to get married. So we show up. He show up. His wife, I guess, she in the house, and he marrying us in his house. And we get ready to sign the marriage certificate. We don't even have a witness.
I think you need two, don't you? I think
they needed a couple of witnesses. So Candy, his wife was one, and he couldn't do it because he was
the minister.
So we had to go around the corner, get a neighbor,
come on,
and be a witness for the marriage.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yes, indeed.
We don't even know who she is. We don't know who she is.
But she signed your marriage license, though.
She signed that marriage license.
Right.
That is awesome.
But I had to tell you that story, man, for just before we move forward. You have to know who Brother Coy and Sister Candy, who they were.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is. How do you guys, being a young Black man from the streets, then you got a young white girl growing up in the Pentecostal church, how do you guys come together and navigate those differences? That's two different worlds, that you guys are coming from. How did you navigate that at the onset of your marriage and becoming, new parents and everything that was happening in your life at the time?
Yeah, it took a lot. It took a lot of help from others. I will say, when we first started, and we were not only were we newly married, pregnant, about to have our first kid, we were newly saved too. So we were trying to navigate that life and that world that he had never experienced, and I had experienced it from a religious side and not what we were being exposed to at New Life and with Pastor Norman. So I think, when we first started, it was a lot. It was heavy. It's a lot to try to navigate. And I think that what made us successful was our ability to be transparent. And we reached out for help because we did not know what we were doing. And that's the truth, because I did not understand him and he did not understand me. And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why he did what he did or felt the way he felt. And I didn't want to understand it because I was focused on me and how he made me feel because he didn't understand me. Right. And the same for him. I think we were from two different worlds, but we knew that we loved each other and we knew we wanted what was best for Tyree, and we wanted to get it right. So I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, as for me, can you ask the question again, Tony, so I can make sure I'm on point with my answer?
My question was, coming from your background, where you came from, and then Kim coming from her background, how did you guys navigate the beginning of your marriage, the differences that you obviously had? How did you navigate around that?
That's a good question, because I remember this. It was us against the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like it was me and her against the world. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I had to put a team around us to help us win.
Okay.
Because her family was not supportive of our relationship, for whatever reasons. I'll leave that up for interpretation.
Sure.
My family didn't support me because of just indifference coming from the hood.
Yeah.
So that's why when we got married, that's why there was no one at the ceremony, because no one co-signed on it.
Yeah.
Either one side didn't co-sign on it or the other side didn't care.
Yeah.
So being the competitor that I am, coming from the streets, while I was going to win at all costs, I felt like it was game on. And it was shots fired. And I took it personally. And I said, that's fine. You don't have to support me. You don't have to be a part of this marriage union. You don't have to co-sign on it. I don't need you to co-sign on it. And that was for my family. That was for her family, or whoever had any kind of ill feelings towards this union. That's up to you. But in my mind, I felt like it was game on, and I was going to win, and I was going to put the team around us to help us win. And like she said, it wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty at the beginning, but we were unified on that front that no one supported us, and that's okay. We took that personally. And we knew at 19 and 20 that marriage mattered.
That's so good.
You couldn't convince us that marriage didn't matter.
That's good.
I didn't have a father in the home that was married to my mom to show me how to be a husband and show me how to be a dad. So I knew that I was robbed. Yeah. And I knew that when we got married, we had a chance to write and give our kids a model of what it should look like from a godly perspective. Take race out of it, right, but a godly perspective, what a marriage should look like. And I wanted to try to take that model from what I saw in my mind at 20 years old and manifest it into something great. And for me, I wanted it to be a dynasty. Yeah. I wanted to build a marriage dynasty. So when you look at the 96, 97, 98 Bulls, when you look at that dynasty, I wanted people to look at my marriage the way people looked at the 6 championship Bulls. that guy did it. Yeah. And he did it right. Yeah. That's when I set out on the journey. We set out on this journey that we had to get it right. Whatever it took.
Yeah. And we've been to counseling. We've been very transparent. Like you said, you talked to other couples. at the time it was Pastor Norman and Dr. Debbie. Yeah. I know I cried on your shoulder many times, TT, and there's and I'm thankful for that because during that time, because we didn't have support from me coming from a large family. Yeah. on both sides, it was heartbreaking for me. I was devastated. And he couldn't relate because he hadn't experienced that feeling. So I felt like God always filled those voids for me as I went on through Dr. Debbie and through you guys as my sisters, to fill that gap when I was longing for that connection and that sisterhood and that mom figure. So, you know, I think that, but like you said, we had such a strong desire to win, and we were willing to do whatever it took. And a lot of times I think it was just being transparent with whoever we were in front of. If Joe Blow across the street could help us, we were willing to tell him and let him help us. There was a man that gave us words of encouragement at a furniture store. I don't even think we had Tyra yet.
Wow.
He spoke life to us through a little metaphor through sports. And we still talk about that to this day. So we weren't afraid to take advice or to get help wherever we could on any corner, because we wanted to win and we wanted what was best for, at the time, Tyra, and then came along the other kids. And it has not been always, you know, like the top of the mountain. We've had some very, very lows, but we've stayed together and we've stayed the course, and with always the one goal in mind is to win.
The other thing too, that when we first started about marriage that we both agreed on was there was never going to be do-overs. So for me, I think you have to start with the end in mind. Like, once you join this team, right? I'm Jordan, you pivot.
Right.
We a duo.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
We not splitting up.
Nope.
Yeah. I'm so glad you referenced the Jordan and the Pippen for all these, you know, these Jordan hating LeBron fans. You know, anyway, I was getting off subject. So go back to what you were saying.
Well, we started with the end in mind. We started that once we got married, there's no tapping out. Like, you're not going to quit on me, and I'm not going to quit on you. We're going to get, no matter how ugly it's going to be along the way. It may look very ugly, it may be very dirty, but we're going to be in this for the long haul. We're going to grow old together. We're going to sit on the porch. We're going to drink coffee. We're going to enjoy our grandkids together. Like, I saw the end before I started. I saw me as a great dad before I started. I saw, like, everything, coaching Little League. I saw all of that in my mind. I saw it in my vision. I wanted to be a dad. And I guess for me, I wanted my dad to be at my game so bad. And I was so good, and he never got to see me be good. And I wanted to make him proud, and he just wasn't there. And so for my kids, I wanted to be there. I already had saw what that looked like. So early on, I knew they were going to be turbulent because we were merging two worlds.
Yeah.
But we were committed from the beginning that we had to have we call it grace to grow. We knew that there was going to be a grace to grow together and merge those two worlds together. Huh?
I said, that's our term too. We use that grace to grow. Go ahead.
You got to have grace to grow. And so we knew that if you allow the grace for those two worlds to collide and grow together, you can get something beautiful. And we were committed to seeing the beauty. And so when we made a commitment to ourselves that we started with the end in mind. We didn't start with, this might work, we're going to try it out for 5 years, we're going to try it out for 10 years. And that's not how we started. We started with, there's no tapping out of this. Once you own this team, it's forever.
Yeah.
We had that understanding.
We did the same thing, you know, early on in our marriage. You know, my mom has been married several times over. His parents, you know, divorced 22 years into their marriage. And we just made a commitment and a decision as well that, you know, divorce is not, you know, we used to say divorce is not an option for us. But we do realize the realities that divorce is an option for everyone. We just decided to take divorce off of the table, you know, for us. But from the beginning, it was never, you know, we knew that, you know, whatever happened, we were going to work it out, you know, and by way of the word and by way of wise counsel, we would get through whatever it is that, you know, we were going through at the time. So I think that's amazing. And you just, you know, you have that, you always have had that that competitive spirit, you know, that edge, that dogmaticness, you know. So to hear you put that on marriage, you know, is amazing, because so many people, especially, you know, young couples, old couples, what have you, you know, at the least sight of turbulence, of trouble, it's like, I'm out, you know, give up and quit, throw in the towel, you know, because sometimes people don't want to push through the hard stuff, not realizing that there is another side, you know, and beginning with the end in mind is key. You have to see yourself on the other side of whatever you begin in order to get to the other side, because you're going to get pushback, you're going to have trouble, you're going to have conflict. That's just because we live in this world, it just happens. But sometimes we don't have the mindset and the heart to push through those hard times, you know?
I think, you know, when you were talking, Tyrone, I just, what came to me was vision. You know, and the Bible talks about where there is no vision, people perish. And I think so many, another one just came to me. The Bible says that it was for the Jesus looked at the joy. It was the joy that was set before him that gave him the ability to endure the cross.
Yeah.
And in other words, he was looking forward to something. And I think so many people go into marriage, and we ask people this, like when we start doing premarital counseling, one of the things we ask is, why are you getting married?
Right.
And we get all kind of answers, you know. And there's one person, you know, he told me, he's like, I'm tired of being by myself. And I was like, okay, but it's like there was no vision. There was just, he's like, I don't want to be alone. So I just anybody, you know, anybody who wants to fill these voids. Some people get married for financial security. You know, some people be like, well, you know, I like the way she looks, she's fine or whatever. I'm like, all right, brother, that may change. You know what you gonna, what you gonna do. But I think that's so key, and there has to be whenever you have a vision for something, whenever you can see the end result, even through the hard times. It's like with this weight journey, amen, praise the Lord. You know, I was thinking the other day, I said, maybe I need to put up a picture of what I was, like 20 years ago, so I can see the end result, or put that next to the pantry. So every time I go in there, I can see that picture, that vision, just to say, if you sacrifice now, or if you endure now, it's going to be much better. And so kind of talk about, I know you talked about, Tyrone, that it's just like me against the world, but talk about maybe for couples, maybe there may be some couples who are getting ready to get married or who are married, but they don't have anything, their marriage, I hate to say they don't have nothing to live for, but their marriage doesn't have anything to look forward to. And they don't have anything, there's no vision in their relationship. They may have vision for, a business, they may have vision for all these things, but when it comes to their marriage, there is no vision. Talk about maybe how do you think you develop that, or how do you implement that for couples who really don't have that?
For me, I started with what I didn't want. So I knew I didn't want to be an abuser. I knew I didn't want to be poor. I knew I didn't want to be able to tell my kid, you can't play on this AAU team because I don't have the money. So I began to build my vision based on, okay, I know I don't want that. My dad, that didn't work too well for him. He beat the mess out of my mom, so I don't want to be an abuser. So I started with all the things I didn't want. And then I began to say, okay, here's what I do want. And then I began to write out what I wanted. And she was always on board with the vision for what I wanted for myself, what she wanted for herself, what we wanted for each other as a couple, because she's got her own vision board and I got my own vision board. And then as a couple, you have a couple's vision board, and all of my kids have their own vision board. So I knew what I wanted. She knew what she wanted, and we knew what we wanted together. So I encourage young couples, it's okay to have your vision.
Mhm.
You know, you should have your vision as a man. It's okay to have your vision as a woman.
Mhm.
And then it's okay to have, and you should have a vision for your marriage as a couple, because that's what gives you that motivation to get up every day. Your vision board should be the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning. He said, write the vision, make it plain so all that, pass by may see it. So when they pass by, they may be able to see. I should come into your home, look at your vision board and know where you're going as an individual, know where you're going as a couple, know where your kids are going. So to the young couples or the people who are married who may be feeling like that stuff, what do you want?
Mhm.
What do you desire?
Yeah.
I heard my brother say he want to restore the days of his youth. He want to be youthful and lose weight, and and I hear you, brother. And hey, put that picture up there, put that vision up there, because one day you're gonna be a grandpa, and you're gonna want to be healthy, and you're gonna want to be there for your kids when they have kids, and so that's your motivation. So you gotta find your why, and it's okay to have a why. Why are you doing this? What's motivating you? And if you don't have a why, the thing that I have to tell grown people to this day, it's okay to have some desires for you.
Absolutely.
And it's okay for her to have some desires for her, because I know if I'm only starting my business and I'm leaving her behind her business, she's going to feel some kind of way about my business. Because my business is prospering and thriving, and I'm getting invited to go speak all over, and I'm excited about, the phone just rang, and I'm about to go and speak to this school in Arizona, and her business is not thriving, or she hasn't even launched it yet because she's afraid to even write it down on a vision board or a piece of paper. So I encourage couples, it's okay, you should have your vision, not division, not to where you're divided.
Right.
But it's okay to have your personal vision as a man. It's okay to have your personal vision as a woman, some things you want, and then you have a couple's vision, and then you have a vision for your kids, and you help them structure that. Yeah. So I think there was something else I wanted to say about that, but I lost my thought.
Well, I think of goals when he's talking about vision, because we're big on goals here, or at least putting out what we want and what we're going to work for. And we do that with the kids. We've done that since they were in end of elementary school, going into middle school. We do it at the beginning of the year, of the actual new year, January, and we also do it at the beginning of the school year, because we center the school year more about what they're focusing on for that school year. I feel like it's the same thing, and that's why I think couples counseling is so important before you get premarital counseling, because that's something you probably should talk about is, what is your goal for a marriage? What is your vision for your marriage? And making sure that you're getting that compatible. And then if you're already married, and I think that's still a conversation you can have to where you have an understanding of where are you going? What do you desire? What is your vision? And what is your vision for our marriage? And are we on the same page? And if not, let's get on the same page. I think it's communication, honestly. And I think for Tyrone, you said that, when you talked about Tyrone about with his vision, that's something he's always had. And I think for me as a wife, and I want this to be twisted, but like, I've always been, my desire has always been to follow my husband. And so I submit to him, not to where I don't have a voice, right, but he does have a vision for our family. And we do talk about it and communicate it, but his vision is important to me. And I trust his leadership. And because I know always that his heart is to see us win and to see our family win and to do what's best for our family. Now, have we made bad decisions? I'm sure. But we always rebound and, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's do this a different way. But I will say that one thing that I've always been very conscious of and very aware of is that I am following his lead, and that I am listening to him and not bucking him as the leader of our home. And I don't always do a great job at that, but that is something that was on my heart early on, was to be that as a wife and to allow him to lead our family. And I think that, because he has such great vision, it made it easier for me. Now, sometimes he's a little, I've got big faith, and growing up really in religion, I think sometimes it was harder for me to grow my faith, because I grew up where that wasn't really talked about. And I guess I probably thought I had it right because I grew up in church. but I didn't hear the words faith and talk about faith and building your faith. And so when he grasped it, he did big time and he ran with it.
Yeah.
And I was back here like, whoa, you're moving too fast. And but I bucked a few times, as far as being scared and having to overcome fear and trust him and trust God and have faith and develop my faith, because his has always been big. But I think that's key as far as the vision he did have as a leader of our home, as a wife, to submit to that. And
now you can't be having a vision and then doing all kind of crazy stuff.
Right.
You really gotta have, you gotta walk it out. You gotta develop some credibility.
Yeah.
You can't just say, do as I say, I wrote the vision, and then you all, like when you put the game plan together, you go out and you try to execute it to the T.
Yeah.
Just like you wrote it up and you practice it. And I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about it's important that you have a vision for her and for me, and then you got to build it together, because when I started succeeding in my sports music, my commitment was I'm not going to go travel and leave my family.
Yeah.
Because that personal goal, I don't care how much you want to pay me to go travel and what profit man gain the world lose. So I wasn't trying to go travel and build an artist when my family vision was to be there present with my family. So my vision always coincided with her vision, and my vision always coincided with the marriage vision or the family vision. So the visions never had conflict of interest. Your vision should never conflict. They should complement each other. My vision should complement your vision should complement my vision, and the overall vision should not only complement us as a family, but it should be a blessing to others.
Absolutely.
When they see it.
it makes me think of something that we heard Pastor Winston say. I think it was at one of our early conventions we had at church when he came early on, about, I don't know, I'll probably get this wrong, but about compatibility. And if no one is compatible except through the Spirit.
Yes.
The Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's the answer, because we are totally different, but we're compatible through the Spirit, and that's why this has worked for us. And we complement each other, but it's through the Spirit. Otherwise, we would be clashing all the time.
And I don't know why, but I have this strong urge to emphasize this, because we being a family that we were a family of 6. Like, we all had successes. And so if one had a success and the other one didn't, how that can go sometimes. Somebody could feel some kind of way. So that's why I'm emphasizing the fact that it's okay for everyone to have a vision for where they're trying to go. And I think for men, sometimes you can either under-vision yourself and you put your family so ahead of your needs that you build up this anger, a resentment towards being a family man. And so you see them saying, one day they get mad and they say, I'm tired of putting myself on the back burner. I'm going to go do something for me. And it's with Susie. And you don't want to go do something for yourself with Susie because that's not healthy. So that's why I'm trying to make that point, that it has to have this balance with it. And a lot of people, so when I urge people to write down what they want for themselves, if they're a family person, it's hard for them to do because they feel like they have to put themselves on the back burner for the sake of family. And I'm trying to live out sports music to show you that that's not true. Yeah. You can be an artist and a speaker and never miss a game, never miss a recital, never miss anything if that's what you want. But don't belittle your vision for the sake of your family and then be bitter 20 years later because you put yourself on the back burner. And the same thing with my wife. Don't put your business on the back burner because you're saying, well, he's got to do his thing. And then 20 years later, you resent me because you didn't have the faith to step out on your business. And I didn't have the faith to speak into your business because I was too focused on mine. Wow. So what we're going to do is grow together as a team. So there are no Michael Jordans on the team. We're all Michael Jordan status because we all gonna shine. There's enough limelight to go around within this family, and we're gonna all celebrate each other's vision. We're gonna all celebrate each other's goals being reached, and we're gonna all celebrate each other's successes. But when it hurts and we're cutting, then we're all gonna bleed together, and we're gonna all lift each other up. And that's what I wanted to share about Marriage Matters, because I see a lot of women become bitter after so many years of putting themselves on the back burner for the sake of being the mom and the wife and then the marriage, and you didn't do what you wanted to do, and then 20 years later you hate your husband and y'all not talking as an empty nester, and you realize why are we here, and then it falls apart. Yeah. So I don't know why I felt compelled to say that, but I wanted to make sure that I say that.
That's good. And so what you guys have just displayed is how couples support one another's vision and how you get behind one another and you push one another's vision. That's something that we do, you know, with each other. It's just like we sometimes have to challenge each other. It's like, hey, what are you waiting on? You know, I had an opportunity to speak this evening. It was a phone like conversation interview that was going to be on the radio. And I was like, well, you know, we have this thing already planned. I got these things going on. And Glenn's like, you never say no to those things. Always take them. We can push this back, you know, 30 minutes if we have to. But that's how we push one another, say, hey, you know, remember the goal. Remember, you know, the opportunity that's ahead of you and what the vision is for our future. Every time you succeed, that pushes us closer to our vision for our future. And so I think you guys just displayed that beautifully, how you support your spouse in their vision and in their development, giving them the grace to grow, giving them, you know, the opportunity to pursue their own successes, you know. And I think that is deposited in your children because they see, you know what, mom and daddy they're still working to accomplish things. They still have goals. You know, they haven't arrived yet. They're not sitting back comfortable, you know, in what they're doing today. They have vision for the future. And so that motivates them, you know, that, you know what, I can keep developing vision for my future. No matter how old I am, I can continue to do that. That's awesome.
And, you know, I always remember that the Bible says that it's the two that shall become one. And I think a lot of times in marriage, we get so focused on the one becoming one that we forget that there's a two. Yeah. And I think that's really, you said that really great, Tyrone, how you said, you know, I have a vision, she has a vision, and we have to figure out how to blend, you know, that vision and how to Tanya always says something. She's like, when it comes to that kind of thing, she's like, is the transparency. So she was like, you know, in school, you have the overhead projector and the teacher puts the transparency with the blanks. Right. Then she comes back and puts the answer on top. And it's like those two things work together. And she always said that's how a husband and wife team is like, she's the answer. She complements.
The answer to your question.
Yeah. So I think that's really great because I think you're right. It goes both ways, but I think a lot of times one of the spouses sometimes thinks they have to become what the other spouse is expecting them to become. Right. But it's like God didn't create Tanya to fulfill Glenn's vision or Glenn's purpose. God created Tanya to fulfill Tanya's purpose. So in marriage, it's like the example that we always use in our classes is, you know, you may be, you know, you have one guy, he's like, you know, I'm called to preach to the nations. And the wife's like, well, I feel called to work with kids. Well, that doesn't mean that this guy has to stay at home so she can work with kids. Right. That doesn't mean she has to leave the kids to go to the nations. It's like maybe God's calling you to start an orphanage in another country, which is, you know, so it's fine. I think that's really great finding that out and how to move forward in that. And I think the other thing I'll say, I think ultimately, Tyrone, what you're talking about is, and this is a word that's been really kind of, God's been dealing with me about, is legacy. Building a legacy. And that's why the family unit is so important. I think that what you see in society is a direct breakdown of the destruction of the family, because it's in the family that you teach all these principles. It's in the family that you teach, kids. So I always say, strong individuals create strong marriages. Strong marriages create strong families. Strong families produce strong children. Strong children change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's why marriage, it matters so much. And I think that what our job is, we want to bring back the value to marriage, because I think that marriage has lost its importance. It's lost its value, and it's not just another thing to do.
Right.
But when it's done right, it produces change. It produces change and impact in the earth.
In the culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. When I was teaching, a lot of my students, we sometimes have conversations. I taught, family consumer sciences, so we were always talking about family. And then in my career courses, we would have conversations. But I learned that many of my kids came from families where their parents were never married, and there were very few people that they knew, close relatives, who were actually married, and they're just kind of like, well, you don't have to get married, to do this or do that. And it's like, no, you don't have to, but man, the benefits of being married and doing it right and actually building a family. So it's like literally what we're doing is changing culture and changing the mindset of many people. And that's why it's so important, and and why marriage matters for us, and why we do what we do, because it's the foundation. That's how God started it all,
Yeah, I always say the first thing that God did after he created the earth was created a family.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important. So I guess we can move in a little bit. Go ahead, Kim. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, a lot of people, when you think about that, and like most people that you see, they get married, they have kids, and like Tyrone's talking about, like with a vision, they put things on back burners. I think a lot of times, especially for women, when they start having kids, they put the marriage on the back burner, and they're all focused on the kids. So I think because one of my visions was to be a mom. That was my dream, to be a mom, but we made a commitment through our vision of our marriage that we were going to be number one. And no matter what happened with the kids or what they did as we started doing teenage things, that nothing was going to come in between our marriage. And that's the commitment we made to each other, and we've stuck to that. And I think that's where a lot of couples go wrong when they start having kids, is they forget that they are a couple, and that they are married, and that that's different than being mom and dad. You are married, and you have to preserve that and have to make that a priority. I think a lot of people miss that. Absolutely. And they don't keep that a priority, and that's where you start seeing a little discord, and then it just doesn't go well.
And then for us, for me, I felt like there was no room for error for me, because I didn't have a support system. So I had to be on point with everything that I did. But there was not a whole lot of wiggle room for error. I had to get it right. So I had to go to the best, to learn from the best on how to do it right. And so that's why we ended up at New Life with Pastor Norman, Dr. Debbie, and Pastor Glenn and Pastor Tanya. We were surrounded by the best. And the best endures to this day. Pastor Norman is still doing what he was doing 20 years ago. You guys are still doing what you guys were doing 20 years ago. We are still doing what we were doing 20 years ago. Angel and Donald are still doing what they were doing 20 years ago. See, the best lasts forever. And that's what I wanted to get right from the beginning, that foundation. And so when I got with Pastor Norman, I knew that I'm not surprised that he's doing everything that he said he was going to do when I met 20 years ago. And that's because I knew I went to the best to learn and sit at the feet of the best. And when it comes to marriage, a lot of people have this, they don't want to sit at the feet of the best.
I think they don't want to do the work. And I think that's something that we have done consistently, is the work. We've read books. Early on, we didn't have money to buy the books, but we were, you used to back then. You go sit in the bookstore and hang out.
Books on Ryan Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And find the books that somebody may have recommended, or just looking for answers for ourselves. We sit there and read for a long time.
It was The Power of a Praying Husband, The Power of a Praying Wife.
Yeah.
The other book that obviously you want Financial Peace from Dave Ramsey, because that's another reason why couples are stressed and they're fighting because of the money problem. So you want to make sure the money business is handled. You got to be a good financial steward. You got to have financial literacy, and that's what we're talking about, two worlds colliding, not having financial literacy, growing up with that kind of information and revelation. So if you didn't grow up with it, you didn't get it, it matters in marriage to be financially literate. And we're talking about having, vision. You better have a financial vision, and you better be on the same page, or it will create division real quick. And that's another reason why it expedites the whole divorce process, and people give up because they're feeling that pressure of divorce. So what we did, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. What we did was say, well, I don't want to be broke. I remember taking her to, we was here in Dallas for work, bro. I was broke. I was driving a busted car. It was bad. And I took her to a Southwest Believers Convention, and Jesse Duplantis stood up and said, he was bragging about he took his wife and his daughters on shopping spree and blah, and then he asked the women in the convention, how many of y'all want to go shopping with Jesse? She raised her hand. I said, yeah. I was like, oh, no. Don't go to church. Put your head down. Put your head down. You remember that?
Yeah.
Look, boy, just all the women in the building, he say, who want to shop with Jesse? All the women.
Hey,
from then on, Pastor Glenn, it was game on. I say, ain't nobody gonna take my baby shopping in the shopping spree like I'm gonna take on the shopping spree. If anybody gonna make it rain on me, it's gonna be me.
that was awesome.
Tyrone said, "Just say me."
You better get financially literate real quick.
That's good.
So that goes back to having a vision, knowing what all that matters. You have to talk about what do you want for the future. Financial, where are you at financially? Or Tyrone didn't even know about credit. His mama say credit. We didn't know about credit. We didn't. We had no clue, but we had the, and we didn't have support going into all that. So we had to figure a lot of that on our own. And so you're talking about finances, your future with children, what does that look like? Your dreams, your visions, what you have.
Spiritual development.
Let's not talk about intimacy, because a lot of times that's taboo amongst Christians. That is a key. And you talk about finances being the big thing of divorce.
The list that you just read.
But I'm just saying,
that's overwhelming.
It's so
for a young couple.
Hey, you had 20 years to work on it, brother.
I'm just thinking, like, when you're processing all of these things you have to work on, like, I can see how, like, if you don't have the tools and resources, I'm just saying that like, if you think about it, you can be like, oh, that's overwhelming.
So we have to probably cut this in segments so it don't overwhelm somebody.
Yeah, well, no, this is good.
Yeah.
But it is important, because we talk about it all the time, because, as much as we got, and we needed what we needed at the time, we needed that spiritual, covering. We were like in an incubator, or if I don't know that's how you say it, for a long time. And that's what we needed early on. But there were so many things that come into play as a married believers, that we didn't have those conversations. Nobody had those conversations with you about your finances. And, we don't think the same way as finances. Nobody talks about how important intimacy is and how you are to communicate it. And like, that was and that's something that we figured out on our own. And luckily, thankfully, we were able to communicate that, but a lot of people aren't. And that's a big struggle. I know in a lot of marriages, I have young people come to me at my job all the time, and they call me the counselor, talking about pull up a chair at Kimmy's. But I'm just transparent, and I'm never afraid to share what I went through, that if they can help somebody else. And you know, a lot of times people are struggling in those areas and people are scared to talk about or embarrassed because we don't talk about it in the church or, you know, platforms. What do you laugh at that?
Well, when you talking about vision, right, earlier, and I'm thinking, well, what's your vision for your sex life?
Right, right.
I mean, come on. I mean, like, how often do you see yourself having sex with your spouse?
Right.
Yeah.
Once a week, once a month, once a year? Like, you need to put that out there.
Oh, brother. Oh.
Surprised, man. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, brother. Be lucky to get something for his birthday, some brothers, man. I'm just be surprised.
Yeah, what TJ told grown man gifts.
Yeah, got grown man gifts.
Yeah, man.
Also, you know, and Nick, well, I'll just end on this. You know, I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago with Eric, E.T., and E.T. Eric Thomas, and he was CJ, like his the other guy that helps him run the company. He was saying that he remembers whenever Eric and his wife were having issues, and Eric Thomas was having a lot of issues with anger. He said his wife didn't call one of her homegirls. She called CJ because she knew that CJ was going to help fix the problem. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times in marriage, the mistake we make is, and you said it, one of you guys said it earlier, was talking about, I'm going to sit at the feet of the best.
Right.
Because what I want, a lot of times what we want is we want people to say, oh man, you know.
Right, you want somebody to take your side.
Yes, you know, I'm sorry you're going, which a part of this, there's a part of that is what you want, mm-hmm. But you want somebody in your life that's going to tell you, you was wrong, and here's what you need to do to fix that, or here's you got what I'm saying. So I think it's and we said it earlier. That's why we have those people in our lives. You know, we have people in our lives because it is a lot, and I'm learning it's a lifelong journey, and I can honestly say in every one of those areas that you guys mentioned, we are better than we were 19 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
In but the only reason why, and I think you said it, Kim, you gotta do the work.
You have to do the work.
You gotta do the work. And if is it difficult sometimes? Absolutely. Is it hard to have those conversations? Absolutely. But if you don't, the other side of that is if you don't have them, then you never grow. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything that's not growing, then we have a word for it. We call it dead. You know, so you have to always be evolving. You always have to be growing. You're giving each other the grace to grow.
Absolutely,
you know?
And you have to become masters of hard conversations.
Yeah.
You know, we have to become masters of hard conversations, and that is the biggest issue that I find when I talk to people every day for a living. That's what I do. And most people's thing is they have trouble with having hard, vulnerable, intimate conversations, you know? And so I'm afraid to speak up for myself. I'm afraid to advocate. I'm afraid to ask for what I need, you know? And so we are trying to help people become more comfortable with talking about the hard things. You can choose to back out, you know, or you can talk about the hard stuff. Let's get it all out on the table and process through it so that we can get to that other side, like you guys were talking about earlier. So,
yeah. So I'll tell you, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this here. We're gonna do a part 2. So I know you enjoyed it. I mean, these guys dropped some. Look, I was taking notes. Say that again, brother. Say that again. Well, we're gonna do a part 2. So tune in next week. Before we leave this week, though, I want you guys to talk about some of the things that you have going. You know, with your sports music. I know Tyrone, you're doing the speaking. Just and then also tell the people how they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you, get in contact with you, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Put me on the spot. Wasn't ready to do that. And I hope in the second section, I want to say this. In the second, when we do this again, I want to make sure that I recommend the book by, I think his name is Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is a key book and a resource, and putting that book in your bookshelf and on your team. That's going to add a lot of value to you, because for me, we keep each other love tank filled up.
Yeah.
So we're always full. Every day is a new day where we look forward to being with each other, because we know how to keep our love tank full to where it's running over.
I want to say something on that. I'm sorry, I know we're trying to end, but I do, like Tyrone said, that's a long list that seems overwhelming. I'm sure it could, but for me, I don't want it to seem like it's such a far-fetched thing. It's not. If you do the work, and it's not like it's miserable work every day. I love being married, and it's exciting. It's the joy. People don't realize that you can really have what we have, and I know a lot of people don't. I know for a fact people don't. They look at us and say, "Oh, they're faking," and we are not. We've been married for 20 years. And we still are absolutely in love with each other. We both have gained weight. We both lost weight. We both gained weight again. We've dyed our hair red. It doesn't matter, because we are absolutely in love with each other. And we still enjoy, like Tyrone's love language is quality time. So I know how to fill his tank, and we enjoy that quality time. We hold hands. We've been married 20 years, and every time we sit on the couch or in the recliner, we have a double recliner so we don't have to be separated. We hold hands in the car. We hold hands when we get to bed at night. We do love each other, and I think that so many people, especially young marriages, need to know that it is doable, and it is an awesome experience, and it does work. If you do the work on a consistent basis, it doesn't have to be extremely hard and terrible. It can be an enjoyable process, and it has been for us. Even the low times, we still find things to celebrate, which is key in enjoying even the work. You can still enjoy the work if you celebrate those moments. And I just want to say that, because I know we've been all over the place, and we would probably have to pick a topic, because we are full. We have had a lot of experiences as an interracial couple, as a young couple, having 4 kids all alone with no help, as young Christians. We have so many stories, but
overcoming financial.
But I do want people, if anybody gets anything from this, that it is doable and it can be enjoyable, and you can have a great marriage after 20 years and look forward to your future. People always say, y'all about to be empty nesters. I know y'all gonna be sad. I will miss my kids, like certain things, but we're ready to enjoy our next phase of our life, because we are in love with each other, and we're looking forward to more time without having to go to basketball practice or AAU game this weekend and then next weekend. So I want to at least say that it can be a great experience. Marriage is awesome, and marriage does matter, and it is an awesome, beautiful experience if you put in the work, and it can be enjoyable. I at least want to say that.
So T Powell, if they go to Facebook, Pastor Glenn T Powell on Facebook, T dot with a space Powell, and they'll find me on Facebook. If they Google T Powell, like all of my Twitter, Instagram information will come up there. So I appreciate you guys giving us an opportunity to share what we love. We love marriage. As you can tell, we're passionate about marriage. We appreciate you guys. I will always, check out y'all's episodes that y'all post on Facebook about Marriage Matters. And I applaud you guys, because I know it's so needed. Like she said, when people look at us, they think, like, is that love really authentic? Is it really real? They just, like, you can't fake this for 20 years. Like, it is what it is. And I remember when I began to realize what I had was manifesting is when I left church one day and we went to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the Saints game. Me and my wife, my 4 kids, walk into the Buffalo Wild Wings, and this old, he was an older guy, but he was too old, but he was, he was young, but you know what I mean? And he said, man, you make family life look good.
That's awesome.
I'm like, man, I'm just, this is what I love to do, but it should be a beautiful thing. People should look at it and see the beauty in it.
Yeah. And that's something, people won't be attracted to what's not attractive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And marriage I remember when I got married, my brother-in-law's brother. He he's like, you the one got married? And now this is a married guy. He's like, you the one got married? I was like, yeah. He said, man, what the F you did that for? That's what he told me. And I'm like, because I love her and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. He's like, oh, man. He's like, man, you know, but that's the perception.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at a lot of sitcoms and, you know, it's always this, it make marriage seem like this dreadful, the ball and chain and all these, you know, things. But, you know, I honestly say, you know, I tell Tanya this all the time. I don't know what I would do right now if I wasn't married to you. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know, you know, and even, you know, you know, especially with the kids, hats off to single parents. I remember this one weekend, Tanya went somewhere. She was traveling with Dr. Debbie, and the girls were really little. And I was at home by myself for this weekend, and I tell you what, when this woman came back home, oh, brother, because I was just like, I was like, how do single parents do this?
Yeah.
Because it was just so, but it's like, you know, when you come together and you work as a team, and that's the thing, you know, we always say that we want to be, we call it, this is a lighthouse house.
Yes.
We want not just, it's one thing to stand on stage and preach to people, stand on stage and sing about God. But for me, where change really happens is the guy at the Buffalo Wild Wings to say,
right.
wow, you know, how do I get or you inspire me,
right.
You know, to, and so I just really that's our ultimate goal in life, is for people to look at, you know, the Bible talks about how you will be enviable. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we equate that to, you know, the car we drive, the house we live in, all that. And maybe, you know, maybe some of that. But I think it really goes back to what you were saying. It's, I want that type of relationship.
Right.
You know?
We say model family, and not perfect. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
Absolutely.
We always, like, we talk about value a lot. Like, we always want to add value where we go, and we want people to be able to look at us and say, hey, I want that. You don't ever want to, like you say, attractive. Like, it should be attractive. And, you know, we got a text today from a coach, and just saying that, you know, she sees it. She values the love we have for each other, not just us, the love, you know, not just our family, but the love we have for each other and our family. So people do see, and, you know, I have a friend now that she saw it, and she will see it, you know, coming back now when she started opening up to me. She saw it all those years, and then when she finally opened and say, you know what, I'm open to that. Like, how do I get that? Yeah. You know, now she's about to get married, and so I think it's important for us to model that what people should see. You know, we should be a model, you know, and I think that's been our goal from the beginning, is to win. We talk about winning. That's why I'm big into sports. We play, you know, we have victories to celebrate, and we're always trying to win.